Well, just to hear the titles of Tim Huff's first two award-winning books will tell you something about his heart and his journey. Bent Hope, a street journal, and The Cardboard Shack Beneath the Bridge, helping children understand homelessness. They're both published by Castle Key Books. For 24 years, Tim has been working as the director of Light Patrol. Actually, it's just the last 10 years he's been director of Light Patrol, but 24 years with Youth Unlimited, homeless initiatives in downtown Toronto and all over Canada. He has a wonderful way of helping us appreciate why special communities really are special. Tim, I've looked forward to this day for a long time.
Well, thanks, Mario. You've been a very good friend, so thank you.
I feel I'm just really getting to know you. You truly are a Renaissance man. And I hope to show and tell that a little bit in our time together. But I guess what I don't know and want to know is what has made you so passionate? You've given your life for people on the edges, people who are needy in so many ways.
Well, I kind of came by it through playing in a rock and roll band that was playing in detention centers and down at Yonge Street Mission and stuff, and just recognized a whole bunch of people that were so intriguing to me because there's such beauty in their brokenness. So even as a young person, I noticed that. And then quite simply, the more it seemed you get involved and you wanted to participate, the more you were blessed or received from it. And I don't know if I became, I just fell in love with that whole scene and people that when you served, you felt served back, and some special kind of connection there. And for me, that was always a place I would see God. I see the beauty of God like other people do in the mountains, the ocean, all those things. But I actually see God, I think, when I see people serve.
And you have had an award-winning way of sharing your discoveries in these unexpected places, maybe for us, not for you. I'm just reading this quote. God likes to meet us most in our smallness that finds our hearts tender and meek. That's a little bit of an explanation of why you find this treasure in the broken.
Yeah, and I would tell, that I would have the same discussion with your viewers that I would have with my friends, which is, we don't have to be on TV screens and in front of big congregations or rallies or things like that. It's an intimate setting, one-on-one with someone who actually entrusts you with some part of their brokenness, and you get involved in that way, that in that smallness, in you saying, at least I can listen, at least I can pray, at least I care deeply, is there anything else? That's where the great things happen. If you think about the real breakthrough moments in your life, chances are they were tiny little moments when someone interacted with you.
Well, almost a quarter of a century working primarily with people on the streets, explains the new book, the new mission we're going to be talking about. But I'd like to start with just a quick revisit of an unexpectedly wonderful evening, the launch for your new book, Dancing with Dynamite. Tell us about it from your perspective.
Well, we gathered people together. You know, I knew I needed to work with Steve Bell, who's just a dear friend and has been quite involved in many of my things. And I knew we wanted to make it, the things that we're involved with, and we don't want it to be about what's on stage or what's presented. We actually want it to be about what the people who are invited, our guests, it's about them and what they might receive and how they might participate. So we tried to do something that was far beyond just, here's a book and we hope, you know, we and the publisher hope some people buy it. That's, you know, we didn't want to go down the road. So we invited the Spirit Movers dancers who come from L'Arche.
Tell us about those dancers.
Developmentally challenged and impaired young adults who, two of them were in wheelchairs and two of them were able to dance mobile on their legs. And they have staff volunteers from the beautiful L'Arche community that would dance with them, and they arranged these beautiful dances to Steve Bell's songs, and so it was quite something. I mean, the whole thing took many, many months of preparation, but what a gift. I mean, most people forget about the book.
I mean,
Just
forget
the
about
dance,
one
they
dry
could
eye
have come
in the place
for them.
because it was so moving.
Yeah.
A couple of the women in wheelchairs were quite severely handicapped.
Indeed.
Maybe cerebral palsy. I'm not
There's
sure.
A very complex series of issues. Yeah.
And yet, you could see that they were delighting in that worship dance.
Well, this would be the thing, is that they were blessing the audience. That, you know, I don't mean to over spiritualize the conversation, but truly that's what people were receiving from them. I think for some people it was an awkward moment because they'd not experienced that before. And for some people it was beautiful, and some people had emotions they weren't actually quite sure what to do with. But those are the kind of profound things you remember.
None of us have seen anything like it before.
Yeah.
We were given a warning. The invitation warned, come prepared to laugh, cry, and find your heart singing in celebration of the remarkable splendor of the human condition, too often disguised as frailty.
Right.
That's the theme of your song.
Yeah, that's pretty much what the book is about, and the journey of the book is we identify one another quite often by our frailties, by the things that look like they're off the mark or they're not well about us. Instead of identifying that, you know, in those things there can be great beauty, and we need to share in that. We need to recognize that we're all so frail and love each other through that.
Give us a hint of just some of the people we're going to meet in your soulful journey in Dancing with Dynamite.
Well, it's kind of a pickup from Bent Hope. It's very much a follow. Bent Hope really went down the track of the stories were all around poverty-related issues. And this one has about a third of the stories, again, would be similar. They're short stories that come around issues of poverty and connections I've had with people or people I've seen or, you know, been fortunate enough to be around. But then we kind of go a little further into say, well, I wonder where there's some other areas that we might find the same thing. So there's about deafness, about developmental challenges. There's a chapter about depression, a chapter about Alzheimer's, chapter about terminally ill children. Just places where you kind of expect perhaps just to be angry at God when that discussion comes up. But we find God in those places
Right
and in those
middle of
people.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the chapters is a very, they're all personal to you, but the Hope Exchange chapter really defines what's next for Tim Huff. What does it mean to bring hope gently and receive hope quietly and never question the exchange? Let me read it again, because we've got to get our heads here. What does it mean? You're asking us, because I know you asked yourself. That must be where it started. What does it mean to bring hope gently and receive hope quietly and never question the exchange? What was going on in this story?
Well, that story is about being in the lobby of Sick Kids Hospital, because I'd been working on the streets, and I used to come in there and just pray and wonder and think about the whole facility and what was going on in there. And I have two beautiful children, and I was spared them going through the agonies that a lot of families go through. And just watching this exchange of this little boy who is being a caregiver to his parents, living in his smallness and hugging care of his parents because their daughter, his little sister, was up in one of the hospital wards and very sick. And then one of the nurses that came down was going out to coffee with her friends and broke from her friends because she wanted to come and comfort the family, and she didn't have much to say or much to do, but just the way she was present with them. And there was this great exchange of these parents loving and praying and desiring wellness for their beautiful baby girl upstairs, and this little boy taking care of his parents, and the nurse coming along and trying to tenderly take care of them. And it was all very soft, and it was all very gentle, and just as it should be, the place you're going to find God moving in a situation like that.
Treasures of Darkness. It's not just the title of a chapter. Hope Exchange. We're going to be hearing a lot about hope exchange.
Yeah,
This is your next move.
It's a big move. I need to say that, you know, I started down the journey of this. It was born out of the book, and I was feeling a stirring what was coming next for me. And John Wilkinson and Youth Unlimited in Toronto, that's the Youth for Christ chapter, had lovely discussions about blessing me in making this transition. You know, a real goal to finish not just well, but finish strong, and to take the time to do it well, and put Light Patrol in place with John Castles, the new director, that he would do well and have the things around him. And we've seen many people move from one ministry to another, and it's overnight and people don't understand, or it's not, doesn't always go well, and we wanted to model exactly what that was not. And so they have helped birth and bless this. And I gathered others around, and really, you know, our mandate is to bring hope, serve well, and to celebrate, which to me is the essence of the New Testament. And if all of society thought, gee, that's what the Christians are about. They're about bringing hope, serving well, and celebrating. And you choose what you bring hope over, how you serve well, and who and what you celebrate. We would have people lined up at our church doors to get in if they said, wow, is that what the Christians are really about? So we find a place in education for children, in a place in giving people service opportunities, and in a place of bringing hope to the hope givers, which is really the part people understood the most, which is how do we gather around those nurses who have worked with terminally ill kids for 20 years and are still hanging in there, street workers who are either in year 1 or year 21, and they're giving, they experience compassion fatigue. Some of those people assisting the dancers at my book launch. Yes. Many people talked about how beautiful it was to see those dancers, but others came and said, I can't imagine the people who were dancing with them, working with them, caregiving for them, and how these are uncelebrated people who are the heart of God every single day, getting on TTC buses and going to work and not paid well, and just experientially and physically and emotionally giving of themselves. How do we celebrate and honor those people? That is a big component of the Hope Exchange.
You know, the fact that you're leaving the work you've done, you know, specifically with Light Patrol for 10 years, but almost a quarter of a century with the Marginalized, it was a shock. But then you could easily see, you know, going by on horseback, God's enlarging your territory. He's taking all that experience. You understand the demand, the drain, the discouragement that can come to the faithful caregiver, and hope for the hope givers. That's beautiful. That's, who does that?
Well,
you're going to do that.
Well, and you know what? It's a wonderful group that's gathered around that has shared in this vision, that understands that a lot of caregivers and educators enter into something because of their heart for it and want to change the world, so to speak, or at least young lives, and then they become task doers because of the politics, the economics, the institutionalization of things. But really they came into it to be hope givers. And how do we remind them and build them up and bring them back to that place? Can't tell you how many school teachers I know, they've been teaching for 5 years, and I hear them, they sound like they've taught for 50 years. They're so broken and disheartened, and
you need to be refueled.
And we need to come around them and say, we honor you, as we know you came into this to be a hope giver, not to be a task doer.
And your verse, your banner verse, Romans 14, verse 19. So then we pursue the things that make for peace and the building up of one another.
Indeed.
You're really going to come alongside. When does this begin?
Well, I'm so thrilled to say that the process for charitable status has gone really well, and we've just got our incorporation, which is the last piece of the puzzle to submit to the CRA. And I do not want to make presumptions or assumptions, and anywhere, never less on broadcast TV. But we hope that by March, we will have our charitable status and full steam ahead.
Oh, it is so exciting. Now, I called you a Renaissance man. There's so many illustrations of this, but I wish I'd been on your Christmas card list right at the start. For how many years have your friends, a very large group, received a Christmas card like this? This is a plaqued piece of art by Tim. I'm going to show what comes with it. This is the hand-written story that goes with the card, quote card. Just in a nutshell, what does this represent, Tim?
Well, every year at Christmas, I started in YU when I couldn't even dream of using a computer. And so all my letters were handwritten. So every year I still do my year-end letter as a handwritten letter and just copy it and do a piece of art that actually speaks about the story. And it's always a small, intimate not magnificent story, but something about a small exchange, a hope exchange, pretty much.
A sweet slice, in this case, right from the street. Sorry, we don't have time to tell it all. We do have to tell, though, about Christmas 2011. Woo-hoo-hoo, just heard today.
Yeah, and I talked to Steve. He was on a cab. He's coming into Steve Bell. He's coming into town to do another CD release. But we've been working on a special project that will happen December 3rd. It'll be a Hope Exchange event, but it will be Steve Bell, Massey Hall. We're working on the symphony pieces, but the goal is the Toronto Symphony Orchestra. And it looks
If you've
like
never
that's
heard
lining
Steve
up.
Bell with a symphony,
But it will be more than just coming to see what's on the stage. It'll be part of the Hope Exchange. We want to fill the venue with hope givers and with people who want to celebrate them. So the audience is as much as the evening as what's going on stage. And there's a whole package. I have a fantastic committee, and the Morrison family's involved, and the Alloway family's involved, and some names that some of your viewers would know. It's
know
going
how
to
to
be very
put a
significant.
wonderful evening together.
Whose hearts are fantastic in
Whoa,
this.
whoa. Book is available everywhere.
Yeah.
Dancing with Dynamite.
Yeah, and yeah.
And you'll come back closer to Christmas, I hope, and tell us.
And I'll bring Steve with me.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
The night of your invitation, I dragged my husband over, and his wife, I think Nancy, was there.
Yeah, Nancy.
And I just said, Steve, I love you. I don't do that all the time. But John Vanier, his words, Tim has penetrating, insightful vision so that he sees people through the eyes of God. He sees goodness and hidden beauty in every person. No fears, only love, and an immense hope inspire him. This book of hope can help all of us to have that outlook. I hope you'll get a copy.